Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back with another live stream of Hearthstone. Today is Friday, February 23rd. We've got only 2 quests to do in the Asian account, and it is now time for the Wild Fest, which means wild arena runs and wild tavern brawls for a while, which really doesn't mean too much of anything else. I just traded for a challenge a friend on the Asian account, so 1, that's horrible, and 2, that might be great. I guess I will have to just constantly try to add random friends to get somebody on the Asian account who, for the most part, would be asleep by now, to challenge me and play. Meanwhile, we need a combo deck. I seriously doubt I have a combo deck. If it's a combo deck, it has to be a rogue deck, which then this custom rogue, unless this is full of combo cards, is the one that's going to go away. So, delete this, type in, make a new deck for rogue, type in the phrase combo when we can, and we'll see how many combo cards we even have on this relatively newer, I guess at this point I have to say newer, because it's been 4 or 5 months now since I started this account. It's not a brand new account, it's sort of a new account. But there's certainly a lot more that could be done. Let's go ahead and see if we can squeeze some pirates into this deck. Like, that also would make sense. We'll have a combo pirate deck that would be 2 daily quests potentially done. And see, those are all the pirates cards I have. And then we'll take some backstabs, we'll take some shadow steps, we'll take some of these. We'll take these. And there we go. Combo pirate and rogue, or I guess I'll go spell. So we've got like a combo pirate spell card deck. If we convert this to, the only card I'd have to replace is this 1 card. Let's see. 1 combo card is the only. Why do I even have a wild card? That's an odd choice. Well, I'll keep it wild, I guess, just for that last combo card. It's kind of strange on this relatively new account to keep it wild, but alright. Wild, ranked play. Might as well play ranked play. And let's go. So, I really am not certain how far we're going to go into the news. I have a lot of tabs open. That's usually a good thing. But also I know a lot of these tabs are redundant things. There is one unimportant issue that's come back up that needs to be addressed. That is pretending like it's an important issue. It'll inherently run me into a rant, so I want to try and escape that. I did decide to go with that motto, calm, complete, critical, video game news and reviews. So if you go to my main YouTube page, which I know nobody ever does because that's just not how people browse YouTube, you can see that I, in a very rough MS Paint, added that text to my header and didn't get it oriented right or anything like that, centering and such. which I tried several times, and frankly, you kind of have to put more work into it than it's worth. You have to have guidelines that you would use in something like Photoshop to tell you what the number of pixels are that you can work within to get the right thing, or you end up using YouTube's cropping tool, which doesn't work well, and that's what I did. It's good enough. That's kind of my attitude on the art, and I guess that's also a good reason why my channel doesn't really have all this art. There's a lot of work that needs to be done there, but a lot of work that I know I wouldn't be able to do because I don't have the skill or the tolerance to do artistic digital art or hand-drawn art and put the amount of work into it to make it good. That's just really not my thing. Started a little early, even though I'm starting late on this, and I played another hour of Assassin's Creed Revelations. Within 3 hours, I suspect, of gameplay, I will be done. I also desperately need to do some of that paperwork to schedule things. Let's do this and this and this. And there's really no reason to do Shadow Step right now, so I won't.
Here we go.
Just continuing to hit the face. I'm really just trying to play combo cards. And that wasn't a combo card, so I need to bring back a combo card. PC Gamer has an article, Burnout Paradise Remastered won't have microtransactions. There was a listing indicating in-game purchases would be optional, but that was put there by mistake, says EA. So that's good. Kind of in the first instance ever for me, I had to go to my wish list and remove the current Burnout Paradise game in favor of the remastered version that I hope eventually comes to Steam, because I personally don't see a reason to play a different, older, worse version of it. Here, that person that I just friended sent me question mark, particularly in Asian accounts. People don't want random friends. They just don't. Which ruins the whole idea of challenge a friend or having friends. Sure, it is totally true that I shouldn't be here in the Asian account, but no, I mean, it's pretty much the same experience as the Americans account. I don't have any real world friends on my Hearthstone American account any more than I do on the European or the Asian account. The number is 0 for most people, I would imagine, because of the simple sad truth is that Hearthstone is not that popular amongst people. But Asian people do seem to have that culturally embedded to guard their privacy, and I think that person that I just friended just defriended me, which, okay, so we'll continue to try to get a challenge a friend. I guess it is a little weird that the Asian people don't know what's up. It seems like that they should be able to realize, look, there's a challenge a friend quests all over the place. That's why a random person might challenge you, but they seem to not care or not realize that. Moving on news though, there's a Darkest Dungeon mod that does an MS Paint makeover style animation on all the characters. It's kind of funny looking as a mod, sure, but it is also taking the idea of Darkest Dungeon and taking it in a direction that doesn't make sense. Oddly, I would heavily argue that if you were to take the animation style that exists in Binding of Isaac out and just make a standard fantasy game instead of a baby crying tears or a child crying tears, you could still do the exact same level of quality game. At least that's always been my belief with the Binding of Isaac. When you go the opposite direction and take a scary game and grotesque game like Darkest Dungeon and try to make it cutesy, it loses something. I think what I have to boil down this feeling, because I can't really put words on it, is it feels like you're subverting the artistic intent, the artist's intention. If you were to say colorize Schindler's List, most people would say that that would have been offensive and not something you should do, that you're subverting the artistic direction of the creators. On the other hand, if you were to say turn the classic Disney Alice in Wonderland movie into a live-action movie, that also didn't really work. So I think it really does just boil down to who came first. Yeah. So yeah, this Darkest Dungeon mod, do I even have a name? It's called the MS Paint Dungeons mod. Looks funny, you might install it for a second, but I really wouldn't suggest anybody actually use it. It's not like the Skyrim mods, where Skyrim mods are either adding content or doing something slightly artistic, even if the artistic direction in most Skyrim mods are just to put bikini armor on the female characters. It adds something to Skyrim, because Skyrim's a very boring, generalized game. I don't know how you say it other than generalized. It's just like the same enemies, the same characters, the same landscapes over and over again. So any mod that adds anything to that huge open world full of repetition is appreciated, even if it is crazy out of there. I surely don't appreciate, like, when they changed the mod that changes dragons on Skyrim to Thomas the Tank Engine. I appreciate it as a joke, certainly, but I wouldn't really want people to play the game that way. Moving on, there's a game called Cypher that's a neat head-scratching puzzle game that teaches you about cryptology. I'm watching the trailer now, and it's starting in this big museum slash white room slash who knows what it is. So let's go ahead and hit that.
I don't have enough money.
And then that. And there's a bunch of pedestals, and it seems like each pedestal has some museum art piece about cryptology, which each pedestal might be a puzzle in itself. It could be a very interesting game. It could also be incredibly boring. But I love these kind of puzzle games, so Cypher is one that's going on my wish list right now. At $5, right? Rated positive mostly. I love puzzle games. I like cryptography. I don't think you could make a game that would go too far over my head, since I was formerly trained in programming, and do have a slight passion for some math. So that's one I'd love to play. It's also probably one of those games like Human Resources Machine where it's more about me playing it than any real fan base that has interest in watching it. Moving on, Crytek's multiplayer swamp horror called Hunt Showdown is now on Steam Early Access. So let's watch the trailer for that. Deal 2 damage. And this. And do nothing else, I suppose.
Here we go.
So I'm seeing player versus player in a swamp shooting guns that look like they're mostly revolvers and maybe a few rifles, but not anything with infinite amounts of bullets. Seems everybody is in cowboy gear, dynamite. I don't know what the combination here is between cowboys and the swamp, though. In general, you would expect cowboys more in a desert setting, but by setting it more in swamplands, you have more overgrowth, more coverage on the ground. I guess that makes a little sense.
We are the sword in the shadows. Job's done.
There seems to be some level of demons or monsters also happening in the game to put a twist on it. I do have to applaud the effort here to at least do something slightly different. It is also very possible that a Western game on its own just won't sell. Like, there have been several Western games that I've tried to cover, and usually they're multiplayer, and that's what kills them, because nobody wants to play a Western game in the multiplayer. They'd much rather play a Roman style game where you're playing as, or a Crusader style game where you're playing as a knight. Right now it's selling for $25, $26, which, no wait, that's pounds, $30 US dollars, which means that they already know that this is going to not be a big ticket AAA game. The problem, however, is it only has online multiplayer and online co-op, no single player experience at all. And the reviews in its early access state are already mixed. So let's go look at some of the negative reviews and see what they are saying. Speaking of reviews, The Secret of Mana came out, reviews are now out, nobody likes it. People are making suggestions along the line of play the original Secret of Mana on Super NES because that's better, it has less bugs, and the art style is arguably better still. Even though the old Secret of Mana is top-down 8-bit pixels, the 3D animations that do get made have like poor voice acting, no lip movement at all, so the characters' mouths are just stationary as you hear audio over it.
I hope you like my invention.
It's just not used to it. Other suggestions have been just watch a Let's Play, and frankly, if I was going to do a Let's Play of Secret of Mana, I say why not do the original.
My greeting.
The door is now open, and the door would have been open, I guess, from the word go, to sell the Secret of Mana remake and include just an emulator that played the Super NES version. Because I don't believe that there's anything on Steam as far as Secret of Mana, I'll look in a second, that plays the 8-bit version. There's like no PC version there. So you could lock some emulator, whichever one you can license to run Super NES games, and that ROM into that. There are probably some legality as far as maybe they lost the license to their own game, but I doubt it. So that'll be something. So one complaint about this game that I'm looking at, called Hunt Showdown, that's in early access, is don't buy it if you're in Australia, because there's only a US East, US West, and Euro regions available. And we need to try to add another friend. Let's see. Here's one saying, why is this game not out of alpha? It's a great game, good concept, beautiful art, fun to play, full of bugs, especially the matchmaking. Closed beta, yes, by all means, but it's not ready for early access. I expected it to continue closed testing and bug squashing for months until full release. So, is Crytek out of money is one of the things it's asking, and maybe that's very possible they are. The player versus player is tons of fun, or will be when it hits the registration, when the hit registration is ironed out. The player versus everybody is pretty easy once you learn the basic mechanics. The NPCs largely exist to hinder you and trip you up when you rush. Players are the real enemies, even the boss monsters aren't significant threats. Too early for early access is another article. Do this. And end the turn, I guess.
Here we go.
Can't recommend at the moment. No Asia Pacific servers. Australia has gamers too. Consistent server issues. I'd hold off. Game is very interesting and looks like it'd be a lot of fun. Watching it on YouTube, however, I just purchased it and unfortunately it's running terribly. Even on the low setting, the game doesn't feel smooth at all. So just a ton of alpha level bugs and early access bugs on this game. Why you put your game in early access and get these mixed reviews, I don't know. There's 1,544 user reviews if they're mixed, and 67% of them were positive. Whatever that 33% of 1,500 reviews will always be on this game now because of your decision to the Crytek's decision to release the game early. This guy.
Here we
and
go.
attack here.
Give that a turn to get ready.
And I don't think I can do anything else. So yeah, I'm not gonna put Hunt Showdown on a follow list or watch list for me because I think Hunt Showdown will probably get some more coverage if it gets better later on when it comes out of early access. which certainly this feels like a game that will come out of early access potentially like years from now. Let's see if I do this. Let's see, I could return a friendly thing and reduce it by 2, but that wouldn't work. Moving on to the next bit of news. Star Control creators have filed a lawsuit against Starduck. The action comes in response to Starduck's December 2017 suit against Fred Ford and Paul Reike. The legal rift between Star Control Origins developer Stardock and the original Star Control creators Fred Ford and Paul Reike deepened today as Fred Ford and Reike filed a lawsuit against the publishers alleging that it has infringed on their copyright and seeking to have Stardock's Star Control trademark cancelled. The suit comes in response to a December 2017 lawsuit where Stardock claimed that Ford and Reike are infringing on its trademark with its Ghost of the Precursors games, and more interesting, that they're not actually the creators of Star Control. So this sounds like some major beef going on here. Well, this isn't particularly what I would want to do, but I'll do. They could have attacked and failed to.
Here we go.
Kill this guy. Stardock's complaint via Ars Technica runs through a relatively detailed history of Star Control Stardock and the way publishers purchased the copyright. The way the publisher purchased the copyright and publishing rights to the series from Atari in 2013, Atari having acquired it. The original publisher, Accolade, in 1999. It also alleges that later in the year it offered Star Control assets and rights to Ford and Reike for the same price it's paid, which they declined. But in October 2017, they announced Ghost of Precursors, a direct sequel to Star Control 2, the Uran Quan Masters, despite not having the legal rights to it. Which... maybe you can do that, maybe you can't. I'm confused a little bit as to whether you could get away with that or not.
This is our town, scrub.
Here we go.
It's really gonna probably come down to nuance. I think if they at any point advertised or said publicly that Ghost of the Precursors is a direct sequel to Star Control 2, then the trademark for Star Control 2 is in violation at the very least. Now, copyright is not in violation because if they didn't copy any of the actual content, story, dialogue, or video, audio elements, anything like that. What it would get confused to is if the game Ghost of the Precursors just feels like a spiritual successor to the game, but they never said that. Not only is the connection unauthorized according to the suit, but it's also incorrect. Reich and Ford's advertising that they are the creators of Star Control is false. As Reich and Ford know, it was Accolade, not them, that created Star Control 1 and Star Control, it says. So here's where you get down to some of the legal problems with the United States and the copyright system. Is if they were work-for-hire employees, which they probably were, or could have been, who knows, then theoretically Accolade is legally the creator of Star Control. But in common parlance, if they were the people that made the game, they were the people that made the game. and they are the creators. And usually there's no lawsuit around things like this. And I think this article is going to say that. Any authorship that Rydo and Ford may have contributed to the classic Star Control game was limited, and it was instead a team of many other authors, including numerous artists, animators, musicians, designers, writers, among others, that collaborated together to develop creatives used in Star Control 1 and 2. Creatives is an interesting phrase there. So that's an interesting argument to make, but in a weird way, because Acolyte went out of business and was bought by Atari. Atari's been out of business and was bought by another company. It's not like this new company is saying, well, everybody should get credit. The new company is saying we should get credit because we purchased the rights from that company, even though we had absolutely nothing to do with it. And sadly, that kind of works legally. That's kind of true. Yeah, more than a month ago, we'll defriend this one. More than a month ago, we'll defriend this one. Tactic Torn we'll keep because he's actually a fan. Although he doesn't. Those two are actually fans too. So we're in a weird position. The Challenger Friend is just not going to happen. So I may have to trade it out tomorrow and try something different, or maybe I'll just in the post-game show try something. So we're moving over to the European account for now. The article continues. Credits for the original Star Control available on Moby Games lists Rydo as lead designer, artist, and audio engineer. Ford is credited as designer and lead programmer. We had no choice to take legal action to defend our Star Control IP, says Kevin Unangst. I don't know how to pronounce his name. Stardock's vice president. What do I want to trade here? 20 minions that cost 5 or more, or win 2 games on things that don't overlap. Let's trade this. We've got a paladin overlap, so let's see if we can play a paladin deck. We should have some kind of paladin deck. Yeah, we have paladin cards. And trying to get victories with the paladin deck might be interesting. We'll try it here, but we might also take an opportunity to go do some more tavern brawls. Nope, we won't. We will instead play Murloc on casual or ranked. We'll try it on casual since that theoretically should be easier, but who knows if it really is. Matchmaking's so terrible in Hearthstone, in my opinion. Stardock's Vice President of Marketing and Strategic Development is who Kevin Unangst is. We remain fans of Paul and Fred, but have to defend our ownership of Star Control's intellectual property to ensure we and the fans can continue to tell great stories. The weird thing here is I've never heard of Star Control. In response to this, Rydo and Ford acknowledged that Acolyte published the game Star Control, but added that it did not develop them, and that a license agreement between Rydo and Acolyte actually expired in 2001, after which all related rights reverted to him. In its countersuit, the developers asked for an injunction against Stardock's future sales of the existing Star Control games, a vacation of its trademark, and return of Star Control and Star Control Gold Masters and source code. So they're going for it all. They want everything back in their control, and in their understanding of the agreement, the licensing agreement that they had. So they're claiming they weren't work for hire. creators that they were actually their own separate corporation, legal entity that licensed the game to Accolade. Star Control is a pair of games we created at the start of the computing gaming revolution. Now, largely as a labor of love, we are returning to the universe we created and update it with new adventures, characters, and worlds. Stardock seems to think not only are we not the creators of Star Control, but they claim to have exclusive rights to sell our games and otherwise use our alien racist ships narrative and other creatures. Alien ships, alien races, narrative, and other creative materials without our permission. This is why we felt compelled to file our counterclaim today to stop Stardock's theft of our games, copyrights, and the universe we created for ourselves and our fans. It's a messy situation of interstellar proportions, and for now both sides appear to be digging in. It says PC Gamer. Just keep playing. I'm gonna have to pay a little bit more attention if I'm gonna win. Although it's still very, very early in the process, and hopefully an equitable settlement can be reached. The good news for fans is that Star Control 1 and 2 remain available on Steam and Good Old Game, and I need to probably get these games. And the development of Star Control Origins, while slower than originally expected, is still moving alongside, according to Stardock. There's an update here. Stardock has expanded on its side of the story within a QA post on its forums. What do we want to do here? Divine Shield? Sure, Divine Shield. And charge, kill, and attack, and attack, and a turn. In very broad terms, it covers the issue behind the lawsuit and what Stardock hopes to get out of this. The company says it was forced to take action after Rydo and Ford issued DMCA claims against the distribution of all 3 Star Control games. The DMCA claims were reversed, but it's clear that our ability... Why were they reversed? Like, what can you do to get a DMCA claim reversed? I need to know that as a YouTuber, since there's so many false DMCA claims that get made out there. Although, in all fairness, I've never received that. I've just gotten a bunch of content ID things. Yeah, in a weird way, now that my channel is demonetized, come to think of it, if I did get a DMCA strike, like, who cares? Like, the punishment of not losing money goes away when you're not making money anyways. Like, that's, if you were going to do a carrot and stick approach, you can't take away the carrot. Anyways, back to this story. The DMCA claims were close, but it was clear that our ability to create more experience in the Star Control multiverse for fans would be at risk if their false claims remained unchallenged. It says unangst. So who's this is the this is Stardock's Q&A. Our only goal is to protect our ability to tell more stories in the Star Control multiverse. We remain fans of Paul and Fred and their contributions to Star Control. Let's see, I'm supposed to play a bunch of 5 mana cards. Also, so we'll do that.
On with the show.
However, given the confusion they've created in the market by promoting their new game as a true sequel to Star Control 2, combined with the abuse of the DMCA system to take down every Star Control game they had no involvement with, we are forced to act to prevent them from continuing to create it. So, Stardock is using the claim that Fred and Paul used the DMCA inappropriately. I think they would clearly argue that they used it exactly as it was intended to be used. If they honestly do have the legal rights to the Star Control copyright. But I imagine what happened there is it was a DMCA against Steam, and Steam didn't care. They said, you've got to take this to court to figure this out. Alright. Is this game that looks like garbage, and I can't believe anybody's actually fighting for this. This is like a really, really old game. But it's rated 89% positive. Came out in 1992. Recording this. I do believe I actually own this. Nope. I don't, so I'm gonna add this to my wish list. It's probably a smart move to own Star Control. Star Control, the Uron Masters is Star Control 1 and 2, and the developer they say is Toys for Bob, and the publisher they say is Stardock Entertainment. They've also made Sins of the Solar Empire, Ashes of the Singularity. It's kind of the same games over and over again. I know Ashes of the Singularity is one of the latest games, and I wouldn't be surprised if Stardock is trying to, in a way, move away from Star Control into something else that is their own IP from the beginning. Or Sins of the Solar Empire has a lot of DLC on it too. Off-World Trading Company. They seem to do a lot of space games. Let's look at the developer Toys for Bob. The Star Control bundle also includes Star Control Origins, which is here. And so I'll put that on the wish list. That's actually really expensive though, at $30. And Star Control Kasari. Kasari Quadrant is cheap and older looking at $4. But Origins, on the other hand, looks like a smooth, new, polished version of this. When did this one come out? Oh, it's in development for $30. I didn't even know you could put in development as a release date. Man, Steam just lets you put any amount of garbage in any field, it seems. There's like no consistency. Moving on to Gematsu Story, BlazBlue Cross Tag Battle reveals main visuals and game modes. So, BlazBlue Cross Tag Battle is, in a weird way, gonna have some heavy shoes to fill, because it's the same company that made Dragon Ball FighterZ, and this kind of has to be more technical and better than Dragon Ball, because Dragon Ball inherently is probably supposed, well, it should probably be for newbie players in fighter games, which includes me, certainly, whereas a proper BlazBlue game, I imagine, should be for esports players, the people that really know what they're doing.
My greetings.
So there's some training mode, survival mode, tactics mode. Let's see. Enjoy the unique system of battling while acquiring new knowledge in tactics mode. Episode mode, which is the story mode. Survival mode, defeat the challengers as they appear one after the next. That makes sense. Training mode, practice the game controls in various situations. Gallery modes to view all the graphics, including illustrations and movies. The BlazBlue characters are just a group of kind of their own unique style of... They almost look like hipster DJ anime people with popped up collars. It's a pretty even mix between male and female characters. There's it's not going for the lewd approach particularly in this instance. Let's see. Play that. There's a replay theater to check out replays of recorded battles. BlazBlue Cross-Tag Battles on the PS4, Switch, PC on May 31st in Japan and Asia, and June 5th in North America, which that's a little interesting how they break that down. Like no Central or South America, no Europe, no depending on whether you want to include Russia as Asia or not. No Russia, no Africa releases. I've never seen a game that specifically said there was a date in which it was released in Africa. I just don't think that there actually is any kind of cultural... No, cultural's the wrong way. Economic development in most African countries where you could legitimately sell a video game without it just getting bootlegged and sold for a lot cheaper. And frankly, most African countries can't afford video games anyways. Middle Eastern countries, yeah, no specific release dates. Perhaps games like this do eventually come out for those areas, but maybe it's done in small steps, and you get most of the video game playing market by just getting North America and Asia, and then everybody else can import it. As I was playing Assassin's Creed Revelations, it did occur to me as I'm trying to think of where you could set the Assassin's Creed series. They've hurt themselves in some ways. It's hard to be 100% sure if you would be safe to put an Assassin's Creed game, say, in any African country without cries of racism. You put it in Australia, besides Sydney, you really don't have any buildings, and you can't really move the Assassin's Creed series towards the future, because then that virtual tourism element that they're still trying to sell Assassin's Creed on falls through the window. Like if there was say a completely urbanized Australia set 400 years in the future, and there were all of these futuristic buildings, that would be cool, but I don't think Ubisoft would ever allow that. Same is kind of true for a lot of places. Maybe you could get Rio de Janeiro in modern time, but a lot of those countries it falls apart. If you do like Aztecian times, you're mostly just making things up at that point, and it's the making things up that they're trying to avoid having to do. They'd rather actually have 3D scans of the area or fly over maps of the area and construct from that. Even when they said it in Assassin's Creed 3 in the original colonies, that didn't work very well. Black Flag, I guess, avoided that by mostly having you on the ocean doing pirate stuff, but Black Flag is a really good game that's not really a very good Assassin's Creed game for that reason, in my opinion. Not that maybe there aren't any good Assassin's Creed games if you actually follow the general concept of what they should be. But I was thinking that some of the Middle Eastern cities right now, if you just took a snapshot of all the architecture that's happening there, that would work. If you tried to do any number of cities in China right now, or Hong Kong right now, then those would be very built up buildings. Probably too built up buildings. It would feel very cramped and cluttered. Being an assassin in China in modern time for the Assassin's Creed series would probably be one of the hardest games ever. There already is a side game where you're in China for ancient Chinese times, and that kind of precludes doing that. A lot of the Eastern Bloc countries, like it seems a little bit crazy that there isn't one set in the times of Vlad the Impaler, or perhaps what is the other guy? Man, I forgot his name.
Reporting for duty. The battle.
The people that were in charge of Russia before they were overthrown, which that doesn't really mean anything. After Genghis Khan's time, but the I want to say Romanis, but that's not right. Well, whatever. And I'm sure you might be able to find some other Western European country that might work for a city or two. Paris, France, great example. They should set a game in Paris, France. In fact, they should just bring back the game that was already very much like Assassin's Creed, set in Paris, France during the World War II. But they don't want to do that. They don't want to introduce the Nazis. I think they could get away with it at this point. Do it once and then promise in the next game to drop it. Right now they're still just adding DLC to Assassin's Creed Origins, and they haven't given any hint at all that there particularly will even be another Assassin's Creed game, other than we kind of know there will be one. Their historical tourism obsession has taken the game to a new extent, in that they tried to have a special mode for this M-rated game that they wanted to actually be played in schools, which in the example of Minecraft educational version, like, that makes sense because Minecraft is E for everyone to begin with, but it doesn't make any sense to try to make a M-rated game child friendly in a different version, because then that's just really encouraging those children to go play the M-rated version, which plays slightly into some hysteria that is going on right now about video games and being a contributing factor to delinquency and children. But I mean, all of that really comes down to bad parenting. The parents have to look at their kid and watch what they're doing, not just look at the rating. Like, even the ratings might not be enough if you don't know what the ratings mean. Let's see. We'll do this. This. Whenever this attacks and kills a minion.
Taste immortal. Onward, friends, to adventure.
I was supposed to recruit a 1, 2, and 3 attack minion. It didn't do any of that.
On with the show.
Interesting. I probably could have won there. So in the historical ancient Egyptian educational version of I forget the exact name of it in Assassin's Creed, because they wanted it to be so kid friendly, and because there are statues of mostly Greek statues of women and men in the nude, with they put seashells, like anti-historically accurate seashells, over the breasts and genitals of all the statues. And I'm like, come on, seriously? Like, if you take a kid to a museum, are they going to cover up the statues there? No. Are they going to cover up the paintings? No. Like, this is the least offensive form of nudity you will probably ever see. One might even argue that breastfeeding is more offensive, because at least when you're breastfeeding a baby, you're actually shoving a nipple in their face. Whereas in the statues, it's just stationary, it's just part of a whole, it's done very artistically, very subtly, and come on, who in the world hasn't been on the internet lately and seen worse than that? You're just not, you've hit the level where the censorship is just not properly preparing children to deal with what reality is, what the internet is, what is available to them and will be available to them. Like, honestly, I wouldn't care at any age to, like, a newborn. I'd be fine with newborns walking through a museum, seeing nude statues. 2-year-old, a 1-year-old, 4-year-old, 5-year-old, 6-year-old, 17-year-old, 18-year-old. Like, there's no age range I could think whatsoever. Maybe there are some kids out there that were obsessive or on the spectrum that you might not want to expose them to that, but I actually worked with people when I was in school. I worked with other students that were on the spectrum and had developmental disabilities, and guess what? It was very much integrated and important in working with them that they were educated and explained all the things about sexuality. There was one person I worked with that actually could not speak at all and had to point to pictures, and there was just this huge book of pictures for him to describe what he's trying to say. And as I was helping the teacher out, we were cutting out pictures that said things like breast and nipple and erection and stuff like that. And the teacher goes, yeah, they sometimes get a little graphic, but they need to be able to say this. So even the developmentally disabled need to know nipples exist, need to know genitals exist, and it's really ridiculous for Origins to try and put shells on it so they can sell this game to schools, which will probably never be sold to schools. And that's not even the rant I was trying to avoid getting into. That rant is still coming. Well, it's been about an hour. We are slowly making progress. We'll get hopefully 4 more Paladin victories, or if we just get 1 more Paladin victory, then we can move over to Paladin and Warrior. But I don't see a real reason to stay away from playing the Murlocs, even though my Murloc deck on my European account is not the best. It's still better than anything else. And in the process, we are playing the minions that cost 5 or more. That's it for this recording. Stay tuned if you're watching live. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want to friend or follow me on basically any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below. If you like what I'm doing and want to support me, give me a game on Steam. Maybe one of those Star Control games, or all of those before they get taken off Steam. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.